What's going on with Timothy Liljegren? Just a couple of months after the Leafs signed him to a brand new 2-year, $6 million deal, the Leafs now find themselves in an interesting situation. To speak to that, here's our Leafs reporter, Mark Masters. Mark, not long ago, the Leafs blue line was full of holes. Now it's too full. The team's cap situation is tight, but okay while Yanni Hakanpää and Carly Jankruk are on the IR. But when they're back, do the Leafs need to do some serious consideration when it comes to moving Liljegren?
Well, listen, $3 million cap hit per season for a guy who's not in your lineup regularly, that's too much for a cap-strapped team. So that's why tonight's game, with Liljegren making his season debut against the LA Kings, isn't really important for the player who's grown up in Toronto after being a first-round pick, really likes it here and is trying to earn the trust of a coach. And Craig Berube says, Liljegren at his best, he can move the puck. That's what he can do. But he's also got to prove he can win his battles in the corners, in front of the net. And the coach is telling the defenseman, simplify your game. Don't think too much. The problem is, Liljegren, I've been around him obviously his entire time in Toronto. He tends to get into trouble when there's pressure on, when he's in the spotlight more, and he tends to be at his best when, he's moving up the lineup as an injury replacement and there's less pressure. He knows he's going to stay there because he's the option. So I'll be really interested tonight to see how Liljegren holds up against a Kings team that's known to play pretty heavy, as Berube pointed out today.
It's really going to be an interesting thing to track. Illness making its way through the team. We saw John Tavares, he's back, but he said, I'm not great yet. I've lost a bunch of weight. Now Nylander doesn't look 100%. What's the situation with the illness going through the room?
Yeah, Nylander did not skate this morning at the optional skate, did not practice yesterday. He's a game-time decision. Tavares returned to practice yesterday after 4 days off the ice. Berube called him low energy, and that's what it looked like to my eyes, and we spoke to him afterwards, and he says it's been a battle, some really tough nights. I checked in with him after the skate today, and I said, you said you lost weight. How much weight did you lose? He said 8 pounds.
Wow.
And I said, did he get it all back? Yeah, I know, crazy, right? He said he's got most of it back. He'd still prefer a couple more pounds. I said, are you feeling much better? He said he wouldn't go that far. So it's pretty clear Tavares is not at 100% going into this game. We expect him to start on a line with Pontus Holmberg and Nick Robertson. I'm curious to see if they manage the minutes. Berube says a couple of other guys have been dealing with an illness, but they've been able to manage it. So it's tis this season, Gino. The Leafs are having this hit their room right now, and they're trying to gut their way through it. Luckily, the schedule is pretty light this week. They don't play again after tonight until Saturday.
Which then brings us to Joseph Woll. He clearly has not been at 100%. He couldn't even skate with the team. Talk to me about his progress and what you're seeing from him. Is there any concern this could be a more significant issue than the Leafs first led us to believe?
Well, a positive development today because he was on the ice at the optional skate, so that's not quite a full practice yet, but I was watching him, of course, closely. He was smiling a lot, so that was good to see. You never know, right? Lower body tightness is what they're calling it. These things can be nagging, and considering his history of injuries, I'm sure they want to give him every opportunity to get healthy and make sure this isn't something that crops up again. So it's unclear. We'll see. They got a couple more practice days coming up this week. Can he get back into a full practice? For now, Anthony Stolarz gets the net. He came to Toronto for this very opportunity. He wanted to play more, and he's getting that chance. Consecutive starts for the first time with Toronto. That happened only once last season in Florida, and those 2 starts that he made consecutively were separated by the bye week in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So he's getting a chance here, a really big opportunity, Gino, and I'm curious to see if he can run with it, because even in the preseason, he was very good. He's had a really good stretch of hockey to start this season.
Historically, Mark, we always say a number 1 goalie can't lose his job due to injury or illness. But could that be different in this situation, given Joseph Woll's history with injuries and given what Stolarz has done so far? So here's my question. We know the initial intent was Woll 1A and then Stolarz 1B. Is Stolarz now 1A until he then starts to slip?
Well, if he keeps playing well and keeps winning, he's going to, you got to think, get the majority of starts. But listen, the Leafs are invested in Joseph Woll. They gave him a 3-year contract extension in the summer, and that extension doesn't kick in until next year. They believe in this guy, and they got to give him every opportunity to show them and reward that belief. So I think that even though Stolarz has played well, even though this was a inauspicious start to say the least for Joseph Woll, I still feel like once he's healthy and back, they're going to do everything they can to get him up and running and give him the opportunity to become that 1A guy again eventually.
Speaking of inauspicious starts, there are only 4 teams in the entire NHL without a single goal in the power play so far. Despite the millions and millions and millions of dollars they have on that top unit, they still haven't scored. What's Craig Berube saying, or what are they going to do about this to get this rectified?
Well, being at practice the last 2 days, they spent a lot of time on the power play, and they actually wrapped up each of the last 2 practices with small area games, where the units were going on either half of the zone with nets on either half of the zone and facing only 2 penalty killers, and the puck was staying all kind of in the area in front of the net, and a lot of pucks were going in, which was part of the idea there, get them feeling good. But just they wanted more of an attack mentality, more of a shot mentality, simplify things. Remember, the Leafs power play struggled down the stretch last season, and they were terrible in the playoffs, 1 for 21. So you wonder if it's in their minds a little bit that they want it so bad to get off to a good start under a new assistant coach in Mark Savard that maybe they're overthinking it a little bit. So we'll see if the practice time pays off. It's funny because Jim Hiller is in town, the head coach of the Kings. He was an assistant coach for the Leafs when Matthews and Marner broke into the league, and he was overseeing the power play. And back then, he had 2 balanced units, and they kind of competed a little bit. Matthews and Nylander were kind of on the second unit. They had JVR and Nazem Kadri and those guys on the top unit. And I wonder if the problem persists here, and they believe it's not going to, but if it did persist, if they would ever contemplate doing that. We know Nylander is a game-time decision. I mentioned Pax Pacioretty practiced in his spot yesterday, so if Nylander can't go, we expect to see Pacioretty with the top unit tonight. But a lot of spotlight on the power play right now, Gino.
This is why everybody loves Masters Nation. This is why you have such a great following, Mark. Every time I talk to you, I feel so much smarter. Buddy, thanks for this. Enjoy the game tonight.
It's going to be fun, Gino. No Drew Doughty, and I usually love talking to Drew Doughty when he rolls through town for the one game he plays here a year. But I find it fun. Jim Hiller said that Doughty's got a message for his teammates. You don't lose in Toronto. So we'll see if they can win one for their injured defenseman. And they need a bounce back. Leafs and Kings tonight. Kings coming off giving up 8 to the Sens. Mark, enjoy the game. We'll talk afterwards.